Welcome to That Beer Show. It's our hope to show you all the aspects of the craft beer world. That Beer Show was born out of the passion, creativity, and culture of the craft beer scene. It's our desire to show you all the behind-the-pint happenings that allows you to enjoy fresh, unique craft beer. From brewer to hop grower to distributor to maltster, we aim to spotlight those folks who make a living bringing you the beer we all love. You can expect beer reviews, style profiles, industry interviews, and everything in between. Sit back and enjoy the ride, responsibly of course, and we'll do the rest. Hey folks, thanks for joining us. We are at the Tap House at Catamount Glass on County Street in Bennington, Vermont. I am joined by a couple beer people here as well. To my right is Ross Richards. Ross Richards is a home brewer and assistant brewer at Madison Brewing Company. And to his right is Ryan Scutt, production coordinator at Cat TV. Without further ado, I say we jump right in.
Let's do
folks.
this. I mean,
okay.
We've got these tasty looking beers in front of us. Let's jump right in.
Yeah, wait.
So, beer number one is the Queen City Hefeweizen.
It's got some nice color.
It does.
A bit of clearness to it. You don't usually see in a Hefeweizen.
So we'll go ahead and get our smell test. So instantly, right off the bat, you're getting a little bit of clove. You're getting that little bit of banana.
It's got a real honey sweetness to it.
It does. I'm almost picking something up at the back end there.
It's got a deep but sweet grainy to it. You know, it's grainy,
Nice.
but very a honey biscuit, if that makes sense.
So Ross, tell the folks out there in TV land a little bit about the Hefeweizen itself. So it's a German wheat beer.
Traditionally, the Germans would have brewed it with about 50% wheat, 50% barley. That would
Whatever
have
they
been
had available for grains? Or?
Exactly, but
Nice.
with the Germans, it was basically you had your base malt, and then you had a few toastier malts, and that was it.
Nice.
A very traditional style beer. This is a lot more sweet than you would get in a traditional German style. But
Sure.
The American style is much sweeter, more biscuity. It throws more flavors, I believe, than the German counterpart.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And for the folks out there, you know, I said I get a little bit of banana, I get a little bit clove up there. So all those flavors are yeast driven, which is kind of interesting. They're not adding any spices to it or not. The actual yeast that they're using on this particular beer, depending on what temperature you ferment that at, is either going to throw a little heavier clove, a little heavier banana. I think this has a nice balance to it.
It's interesting. I think a lot of people don't realize that the yeast has a big impact on flavor.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oftentimes, especially in Belgian beers, Hefeweizens, it's definitely yeast-forward beer.
Yep.
Definitely.
Very subtle hops. You almost can't even tell they're in here, but
And that's a good thing.
it
I don't
brings
think in this
out
one.
it brings
You
out
want
much
to.
more of the sweetness and the graininess that we're looking
Exactly.
for in this kind of a beer.
Yeah, not every brewer is aiming for a hop forward flavor.
Sure. Yeah, this is a solid representation of, I would say, an American-style Hefeweizen.
Absolutely,
Great,
absolutely.
Great. All right, we're going to move on to probably a beer at the other end of the spectrum. So this is the Fiddlehead IPA.
Oh yeah, heard a lot about the Fiddlehead.
Pretty well known here in Vermont and throughout New England. So comparison there.
Yeah, they look kind of similar. I mean, they look lighter, but it doesn't mean they're going to taste anything like each other.
And this is where I love craft beer culture. You got a Hefeweizens that's usually full of wheat and really cloudy, and you get an IPA that a lot of times is very clear nowadays.
Yep.
But
Not anymore.
the hazy IPA is making a comeback.
It is. And this beer, I don't know because I haven't talked to the brewers themselves, but I wouldn't be surprised if this had some wheat in it.
It looks,
maybe some flaked grains to throw some of that that haze, or it could be just from massive amount of dry hopping. And it also could
Almost
be
little particles of the hops, right?
Yep, and it also could be their yeast. A lot of English-style yeast, which a lot of brewers are using these days on these IPAs, will remain cloudy like this. So, so up front, big,
give it a whirl.
big citrus,
The nose is extremely hoppy.
big
Extremely.
tropical.
Oh, yeah.
You definitely know you're drinking yourself an IPA.
Yeah, no mystery behind the smell
Good
of
stuff.
that. That is hop forward all the way.
Taste is clean though. It's crisp. You do get a little bit of malt back in there. Has a nice solid malt backbone to really drive those hops home. Super balanced. I think that's one thing that
Definitely.
this beer is known for.
Would you say that's a good introduction for someone to get into IPAs?
My personal recommendation is people start with session IPAs.
Good point.
Little less alcohol, little less hops, but it will kind of start setting their palate to know what they're.
The big, bright, bold flavors,
Someone
right?
who hasn't drank IPAs would drink this. They would probably, I think they would enjoy it, but they might also be just a tad turned off.
Yeah, almost like too spicy or whatever. They might
If
they
you're
might
not
describe
quite
it that
used
way.
to it, myself included, before I really got into craft beer, I myself probably would have been like, oh, what is that? But an excellent beer.
Really solid, definitely. This one I hear a lot of people at bars order this or ask if people carry it, so it's definitely sought after.
It's almost becoming the go-to IPA in Vermont.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, where the 60-minute IPA has kind of become the go-to IPA nationwide. Mm-hmm. You go into a Chili's, you go into whatever restaurant, most likely they're going to have a 60-minute IPA. Here in Vermont, you go into a lot of restaurants, tap houses like this, you're probably going to find this beer.
Yeah.
And what a great beer to have.
It's
available.
becoming more and more difficult to not find Fiddlehead on a tap.
That's
It's
true.
just-
Yep.
It is a very well-balanced beer, but definitely, as he was saying, it's not for new people to the hop scene. You know,
Yep.
hop heads are going to love it, obviously, but it does have a bitterness to it that lingers, but
In a
at the
clean, flavorful
Exactly.
way.
At the beginning,
Not
you have a nice,
obnoxious.
full-bodied malt backbone. They're well balanced, and then it has a lingering bitterness that just it expresses the CO2 even more. It's got little bubbles that just dance on your tongue. So
Good
The
stuff.
last thing I'll say about this beer, what I really like about it is it's a very solid beer, and we're not waiting in lines for it. We're not waiting for it to come into our local bottle shop.
Yep.
You know, this is a beer that you can find every day, which is just as good, in my opinion, as some of the big boys out there that, again, you have to wait in line for. So kudos to them. Hey there. Today we're going to talk about the difference between ales and lagers. So what's the real difference between ales and lagers? It's all about the yeast. The yeast determines whether it's going to be an ale or a lager. Now, an ale yeast typically ferments between 62 and 72 degrees, whereas a lager ferments around 50 degrees. So, your top fermenting yeast, your ale yeast, will be doing most of its work up in here. It's also going to throw a nice yeast cap, which comes right up like this. Your bottom fermenting yeast is going to be working way down here, so it's going to be eating all of those sugars down in here. Obviously, it's not going to throw a big yeast cap since it's down in here. An ale yeast can actually turn around a beer from brew day to consumption in 9 days, where a lager sometimes takes upwards of a year. That's because it actually has to go through a process called a lagering process. Basically, you're dropping the temperature of the beer to around 40 degrees and you're just letting it sit there for as long as you want, and that develops that clean, crisp flavor. So, hopefully today you learned a little bit more about ales and lagers. Hey there, I am here with Joey Nerney from Calmont Beverage. Welcome, Joey.
Hey, thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit about what Joey does. It's pretty interesting. So Joey, you work for Calmont Beverage. Tell us a little bit about Calmont and your role there.
Well, we're one of the smaller distributors in the state. Been around for 76 years now.
Oh, wow.
But still core small group of people, maybe 20 sales reps. And I cover, I guess, southwestern quadrant of Vermont. So handle Bennington, head down to Pownell, up through Manchester, over to Stratton, Mount Snow, Wilmington. Quite a bit of driving.
Yeah, your car must get a lot of miles on it, huh?
About 40,000 a year.
Wow, no kidding,
Yeah.
no kidding. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the day-to-day. You just talked about the driving. So regular work day, what's it look like?
Really depends on the day.
Okay.
I spend a lot of time in chain stores, believe it or not.
Okay, yep.
Have to take care of them, so mornings.
Well, not to interrupt you, but chain stores, the selection over the last year and a half, 2 years, from my personal experience, has just exploded.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I can see
they're,
where that's a big customer of yours and
Right.
why you'd be there. So
We're getting a lot of the Vermont IPAs, the 16-ounce cans in there now, which is great to see.
sure.
So mornings are usually spent with them, and then I can do the better part of the job after that. I can visit my independent accounts, both on and off premise. Hopefully do some tastings, present some products to them. And then later in the week, I assist the drivers with deliveries, checking stuff in, putting stuff away,
Nice.
chase the trucks around.
Sure. Great. You've been in it for, before we sat down here, you said you've been with Calmont around 5 years?
No,
or so?
8 years.
8 years,
Yeah,
wow.
just
even
about.
more. That's great. So how have you seen the market change, or Vermont beer itself change? Has there been any significant changes or trends or anything like that you've seen?
I mean, I've been seeing, and probably you can credit Alchemist for it maybe, but a big shift to the double IPAs, to the 16-ounce cans, and that sort of becomes synonymous with Vermont beer, it seems.
Right.
Which, in my opinion, is great. I prefer hop-forward beers.
We're not complaining, so yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, do you see any trends this year? I know every year, it was the session IPAs, and it was this, and it was that. Every year seems to be, some sort of big trend. Now we're mid to late February here. Have you seen anything emerge or anything like that in terms of a trend for the craft beer world for this year?
Maybe not necessarily starting this year, but I feel like I've been seeing more sours, more brewers experimenting with them and using various adjuncts like grape must a lot, I think, which is really interesting.
That is. So you think maybe sours will become a little bit more available? I know, locally here we have some great beverage stores, but sours are still somewhat hard to come by, so you think maybe we'll have a little bit more options in terms of sours?
I sincerely hope so.
Awesome. Great. Well, it's going to be kind of a traditional question that we ask on these interviews. So what is currently in your beer fridge right now, and what are you enjoying?
Well, not a Vermont product, but I did sneak out to Canton and pick up some Trillium recently, so I've been getting through that, and picked up the other day a 4-pack of Rock Art Limited Access, their double IPA. I think that's always a reliable, solid choice.
I agree. That's a definite go-to for me when I shop locally here. So.
And it's good to see that it is almost always available now, despite the name.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have to wait in lines
Right.
and all this crazy stuff for a solid beer. Well, Joey, thank you very much. I think you gave the folks and myself a little bit of insight on what you do and what the distribution game is. So thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
This is Cooking with Scuttle, Just a Tip. We have here Brewer Will from That Beer Show. And what I want to say is, if you don't like dark beers, you don't like lagers, you kind of have these things in mind like that you don't want to try, or you know you don't like them, give them another shot. Because believe it or not, you'll be surprised at what you really do like. Just because it wasn't a great experience the first time, if you give it another shot, you might be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I kind of equate it to food.
That's a good point.
10 years ago I didn't like mushrooms, but you know what? Last year I tried one, loved it. So,
Same thing for tomatoes for me.
Exactly. If you go to a brewery, ask them for a sample.
Ask them for a sample.
A lot of people don't like IPAs. Well, you know what? Try a pale ale. I don't like stouts. Try a porter. Try a Czech lager, dark. Just try it.
All right.
Not gonna hurt to try.
You'll be happy you did. Just a tip.
Just a tip.
Just a tip.
All right, so today we have a very special beer. A beer from Zero Gravity called Tamave.
Tamave, I like that.
Tamave.
Interesting name alone.
It
Yeah.
is. So it's a Czech-style dark lager.
Ross, go for it. We know you want to.
It's extremely interesting beer style. I mean, you can't say enough about it. First of all, it's a Munich Dunkel is what it is, but they used Czech
Wow.
Pilsner yeast, I'm assuming. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, would be my guess.
But that would be my guess. Everything about this beer just says old
Wow.
tradition with
Yep.
new innovation.
Right.
You take a beer like this, been around for a very long time. The Germans have been brewing that since the Stone Ages, pretty much. And you get an American craft brewery that can take that kind of a beer and come out with a malty, very well balanced. Its counterpart is the Helles. Very, very clear beer,
Yep.
very easy to drink. Your Pilsners, your mass-produced Bud Light and all those, they were crafted off the original version of this.
Yep.
And this is just a darker version of that, and it should be a very clean, crisp lager.
And it is.
Yeah, I was just in Munich earlier this year, and I ordered a Dunkel, and this, I mean, I would say I'm drinking almost the same beer.
Well, if they heard that, hopefully they will. I'm sure they'd be super proud. That's what you're aiming for,
Yeah.
especially as a brewer. What's great is that there's breweries in Vermont brewing these beers. You know,
Yeah.
with the IPA craze, there's a few breweries that you're lucky to get anything other than an IPA.
It's true.
So
Yeah.
the fact that they're branching out and they're bringing these styles of beer to us is great.
Really nice and malty. It's great.
Ton of flavor packed in. I don't know the ABV on this.
Ton of flavor packed in with fewer ingredients, right?
Yeah, and traditionally these type of beers are low in alcohol. I'm guessing this is probably under 5.
Yeah.
But it doesn't taste it, doesn't drink it.
No,
it tastes more like a 6% beer.
It might be hid behind that body as well, though, because again, you're talking about a beer that is malty and dark, so it's going to be, malt forward. It's going to be toasty. You're going to have that breadiness to it.
Perfect for cold weather too.
Exactly.
Yes.
And this still lets the hops shine through enough.
It does.
As I feel really only the American breweries can really do right now.
Yeah.
Well,
Another solid
it's encouraged.
balance.
Yeah. So Saaz hops, I believe we read in the description.
Yes, it was Czech sauce hop.
Yep. So a nice traditional.
And they used barley and
Do you think there's any rye or any other malts?
I
Any
don't
specialties?
think so. I'm not tasting any rye.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious to know, how they got the coloring. We thinking maybe a little chocolate, maybe a little crystal. What are you thinking
it
they're
really
getting
tastes
at?
authentic. I know Zero Gravity, the other beers I've had from them, they like when they do a traditional beer to
Yep.
stay traditional.
Sure.
If I had to guess, I would say that's probably, it really could just be the boiling time.
Gotcha. Maybe they're
extended
doing a little more
boils.
caramelization.
I'm not sure what their setup is, but
Sure.
many brewers, if you do a decoction,
Yep.
that's how the Germans would have got the darker beer
Gotcha.
as well. Crystal malts and chocolate malts aren't typically in your Germans, but
Yep.
again, the American craft beer scene,
Right.
innovators. They take,
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about an old traditional beer that is made a comeback during a time when IPAs were all the rage. It still has a place on the table,
Right.
and the tap
fantastic.
lines for everybody.
Yeah. Would you guys agree this is art in a glass right here?
Absolutely.
Someone took a traditional style and put their artistry, creativity into this glass while still being true to the style.
Yeah, I think
it's
one
awesome.
important thing too, and again, it seems like I'm wrapping these up, is if you go into a tap house, you go into a bar, you go into your local store, don't be afraid. I know a lot of people are like, what the heck is a Czech dark lager?
Yep.
Just the name itself might be like, I don't think I'm going to like that, but this is a testament.
Try
This
it.
beer, I think, even a Budweiser, a Coors Light
Yep.
fan could probably enjoy.
Agreed.
So, you know,
It's a
don't
good
be
beer
afraid
right
to try a different beer. So, lastly, we're bringing up a classic. It's kind of funny to say that because it's not that old. But this is a beer that a lot of people, even Mr. Scutt himself over there, said was maybe one of his first craft beer
I'd
loves.
say so, yeah.
So this is the Left Hand Milk Stout. I would say the epitome of the style. I know as a brewer, whenever I brew a milk stout, I'm always super flattered when people come back to me and say, hey, that's as good as Left Hand.
Yeah.
That to me is a super big compliment. So so it's a milk stout.
Totally solid, very consistent flavor. When I first tried this, I don't know, when I was, in college.
Sure.
I think the flavors are still exactly consistent.
So you're getting a nice chocolate on the nose, getting a little sweetness.
There's a warming alcoholic essence to it as well.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah, almost like there's liquor or something in it, but there's
Like
not.
a deep spiced rum. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm almost, it's interesting
Very
you say
pleasant.
that. Yeah. Almost barrel. You get just a slight barrel, not a heavy barrel.
And I would
but
say they
just
probably don't
twinge.
age this much,
No,
though.
it's definitely not aged.
Yeah.
It's just the complexity of flavors is what it's throwing.
The mouthfeel, the foaminess, the creaminess. It's dessert in a glass, but leaves a coffee bitterness to it that is just phenomenal.
So for the folks out there who might not be familiar, a milk stout is basically a stout which they have added lactose sugar to, typically during the boil. Now lactose is a sugar that is unfermentable, so it kind of sticks in there and some residual sweetness comes through. Just to give the folks a little bit of an idea of what that is. But certainly a solid example. So pitch black, not overly roasty, not overly chocolate, not overly coffee, just a nice balanced stout. Again, probably a good entry-level stout, believe it or not.
I would say so,
it's
yeah.
just like, I think a lot of folks would enjoy this.
I mean, if you like Guinness, try this one too.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, as far as stouts go, there's a lot of different options out there. You got dry stouts, cream stouts,
Right.
sweet stouts, oatmeal stouts,
Imperial stouts.
imperial stouts.
We'll stay away from those today.
But this is a very well put together recipe. I mean, you can taste it, you can smell it.
Yeah.
Everything about this beer is very, very well done.
Yeah, and this beer really put, I think, Left Hand on the map.
Absolutely.
This beer became super popular. People really loved drinking it, and then it opened up the door, I think, for some of their other styles.
Yeah.
So now you're starting to see a lot of their other styles appear alongside of this one, and boy, kudos to them.
And people recognize that left-hand logo.
Absolutely.
And then they go
Also do
right for
this,
it.
but,
I
yeah.
would say, this is really... A lot of people are turned off by dark beers. I don't like dark beers.
We'll be addressing that in a later segment.
We will. And so basically, think about it. Just because it looks dark, that doesn't mean it's like other dark beers.
Correct.
I mean, really, think of it like a milkshake or a cup of coffee.
Yep.
You can really equate the flavors.
Absolutely.
So I always say this to people. So a Guinness actually has less alcohol
Exactly.
and less calories than a typical Budweiser.
So it's better for you, really, if you're watching that figure.
So don't be afraid of any of these styles of beer. If you're still getting into hoppy beers, tread lightly, try some session IPAs. But across the board, these beers right here, I think, would appeal to the masses and across the board. So
Really good spectrum.
yeah. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this segment of That Beer Show. And thank you, Ross.
Thanks for having me. It's
Thank
been
you,
a pleasure.
Ryan. And thank you to the Tap House at Catamount Glass over here on County Street.
And let's finish these beers.
Sounds good. Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at glassware. So a lot of folks are drinking their beer out of pint glasses, tulip glasses, Pilsner glasses, etc. So we thought we'd take this opportunity to maybe talk a little bit about proper glassware, what glass works for what beer, this, that, and the other. Today though, we have a very unique glass. So this is called the Aroma Glass. This was specifically developed by the Catamount Glass. Very unique glass. I'll talk a little bit about it. So you see the top has this kind of traditional tulip shape to it. Then you have these ribs down here and a wide base. So why is it called the aroma glass? Well, as you're pouring your beer into it, it's kind of going down this side here, hits this little hill, comes up, turns, and then it hits these ribs. That kind of just starts releasing those aromas. And as you fill, as you can see, this top part here kind of funnels everything right here. So when you're swirling and getting right in there, this is probably gonna unleash the most aroma on a glass that you can get. So super cool glass, very unique, only available at the Catamount Glass over on County Street in Bennington. If you don't have one of these glasses in your arsenal, I would recommend having one. Just a cool, unique thing to have around, and especially for those double IPAs, hoppy, anything with a nice aroma on it. This is gonna really showcase that beer, and grab 4 maybe and have a party. So that's a wrap on episode 1. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did bringing it to you. We will continue to explore the craft of beer and its unique culture. Till next time, remember, life's too short to drink average beer. Drink craft and be hoppy.